All right. Hi, Assel. Welcome to our
Yeah,
next podcast. The topic today is the power of specificity. So being very specific with your offer. And the reason I want to talk to you about this today is because listen to so many different business offers and I look at people's websites, I talk to experts, and there's a strong correlation between being very general and vague and having a difficulty selling. So, do you have any points before I jump in today on how you've experienced that?
yeah. In general, I get what you're saying. A lot of people use different business jargons, and they say things like, "I'll transform your company," or "will just add value." So it kind of it looks really fancy. It sounds good. For most of the people, it doesn't really make sense because it's a very vague term. So I get what you are saying, but in terms of lead generation, how can we use this information?
Yeah, so that's exactly the example that I'm thinking of. Talking to very experienced experts who speak in terms of, oh, I create value, or I increase the value of a company, or I engage in company transformation. And then really maybe not realizing that that's so incredibly vague. So what I always push people to think about is really a concrete story. For example, I help a company go from this beginning point to this end point with this type of transformation. For example, they have this tangible problem and they would like to get to this tangible outcome, and that's how I help them. Or I help a very specific type of company, a company that's between 10 to $50 million go through transformation, or I help CFOs go through a transformation. So it's the more specificity about the type of decision maker, the size of company, the industry of company, and then the type of transformation or value that is created, such as the problem or starting point A and the desire or the outcome point B. Like it's almost worlds apart in terms of ability to sell or articulate your value.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why people stay very general. Maybe it's because they fear losing some clients, for example. Like if they get super specific, it might push away some potential clients. But the problem with being so general is you're so general, nobody understands what on earth you do.
Yeah. I would like to add one more thing, because I have worked with clients, let's say that who who were specific at what they do, but still they were going for too many verticals instead of just going after two or three different industries or niches. They want to target, you know, n number of industries, and geographically they want to work with Asian companies, Middle Eastern companies, and West companies, European companies at the same time. So if it's too broad, other than just your offer, even if your targeting is too broad, the results are going to vary a lot, and within a time frame, you won't get the most out of your efforts.
Yeah, exactly. I always think of it like it's maybe a little bit like layers of the onion or like the rings of a target. So there's a broad ring of the target, and you could probably hit anywhere on the target and get business. But the more specific you are, the more leverage you have. So if you could help companies in every geography and every industry and every size, if you try and hit anything, you can often hit nothing. And so putting the constraint on yourself helps you be much more efficient with your time and energy. So that, say, for example, I'm only going to go after companies on the East Coast of the US that are actively fundraising, within the next 6 to 12 months. and they've previously raised, more than $2 million, that massively shrinks the pool, but it makes it so much more specific of who you're going after. It doesn't mean you'll never help other companies ever again. It just means that your marketing and lead generation efforts are so much more impactful, and it means you can measure the effectiveness of the campaign.
So basically, Jen, so the question would be, is it better to be a big fish in a small pond or the other way around? So what would you suggest when it comes to lead generation?
I don't know that it's about being a big fish or a small fish. I think it's more
Like
about,
in terms of like specification, like because you said at the start you kind of don't understand why people want to go be very general because they fear to lose clients. So from that, I think of it as the small and big fish and the smaller fish.
yeah, I understand. Yeah, I guess you're right then in that case. It's like if you narrow the pond to be smaller, then you're a bigger fish. And it's compounding, as in you've got case studies that show your expertise. You've got language that speaks very specifically to that group of people. You are the standout expert. You know exactly what to say. You have a really predictable process to find that person and convert them into business. You're essentially just reducing the factors that make lead generation and sales more difficult. As you open it up to bigger and bigger pools of people, there's more competitors. You need a million case studies, you need a million points of expertise. And while you can probably help them, it's like juggling all of these balls and trying to keep all of the balls in the air at the same time rather than just focusing on one and just like being really laser targeted. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would just, I agree, and I would just like to add one more thing. We have worked with clients want, who kind of wanted to work with Fortune 500, but they had a very specific kind of offer, and they knew what they wanted to do, and they got the success out of it. And we have worked with the clients who were just a generic SEO company or a marketing firm, and their targeting was kind of all over the place and the results were not amazing. So I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can go after the big giant companies if you're very specific about how you help them. And it actually helps you win the bigger deals the more specific you are.
Yeah.
So yeah, the benefit of being specific is really huge.
Nice.
Great. All
Awesome.
right, good conversation. Thanks. I'll talk to you in the next podcast.
Thanks, Jen.